I actually think I'm cursed somehow. So, first time I made one of these videos, it was like the second hottest day since records began. Today, it is the hottest day since Britain's records of weather began. I'm gonna die, but it's gonna be worth it for you guys. So, support me on Patreon, because I'm doing this when I'm allergic to heat. So, you know, like literal dedication to the cause level. It's gonna be a bad day. But yes, I am back with the chaotic recap of Percy Jackson and the Olympians part 2. And this episode I will be covering the Titan's Curse and the Battle of the Labyrinth, and then depending on time, maybe also the Last Olympian. But if I don't have time, the Last Olympian will be done in its own separate video, as well as like covering some of the short story stuff. But basically, let's see how it's all gonna go. So let's dive in to this chaotic recap of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. I am not getting into costume today. I was already dying in the orange shirt last time I did this video, and now it's the hottest day since records began. So I'm going to stay in a tank top, but don't worry, I'm going to get into some part of a costume right now. Literally, it's just a hat and the sword, which I'm going to be more careful with this time so I don't poke holes in ceilings or hit myself in the face. So let's dive in to the Titan's Curse. So it's been 6 months since the events of the Sea of Monsters. I nearly called it the Titan's Curse. And, you know, they are at, well, I say they. So it is Percy, Annabeth, and Talia. Yes, she should still have a bigger picture, but she doesn't. Maybe I should have given her a picture of a tree. Anyway, either way, they are at this place called Westover Hall. It is like a military school place where Grover here has been calling them into action because he's just found 2 very important demigods, or at least they smell like important demigods. And Percy's been dropped off by his incredible mother, Sally Jackson, who has driven a new trio to this Westover Hall to help them save these demigod kids with Grover. But things are a little bit complicated at the moment because Talia is now in control of things because she is the daughter of Zeus, and you know, she has a lot more skills, which I do find always somewhat interesting because she has been a tree for a long period of time. But either way, she's basically leading this quest, and Annabeth and Grover look to Talia for help and advice. But she also has this very special skill that she was taught by Chiron, which is the ability to bend the mist, which when our group head into the military school, they meet this man and this woman. The man is the one that we're going to focus on because he has like different coloured eyes, and his name is Dr. Thorne. It's going to be important later. And basically Talia here is able to manipulate the woman, but not fully Dr. Thorne, into thinking that they are students. And so they are allowed to go into the dance hall, which is where they meet our new demigods, Nico D'Angelo and Bianca D'Angelo. They are a pair of siblings, which is very rare in general for sibling demigods because it means that the god had to go back to the mortal woman, which like gods don't care about, you know, responsibility, so it's very rare in general. And yeah, they're basically trying to find a way to get them out of there because it is Dr. Thorne that Grover is assuming may be a monster because there's just something not quite right about him. And so to be able to find a way to get the kids out, Percy and Annabeth dance to Jesse McCartney. Talia Grace disses Jesse McCartney, which has taken her off my favourite characters list because no one disses Jesse McCartney. Jesse McCartney is a lyrical genius, just as Grover said, which is why Grover is my fave, because he knows musical talent when he hears it, even if he's not that great at music himself. It is while at the dance that Talia formulates a plan of how to get them out, because Grover knows for a fact that this Dr. Thorne guy is not a human. He is definitely a monster. And as we find out later, he is a manticore, but we'll get to that when we get to that. And so Talia is formulating a plan to be able to distract Thorn and get the kids out safely. But is Percy happy with that? No, because Percy here has been in charge a lot of the time since before Talia came about, and he doesn't like being told what to do because, and say it with me now, he doesn't like giving up control. He's got a bit of an ego, but it's fair enough. He's done lots of world-saving stuff here and there. He's had an inflated sense of self, which is now gone since Talia is now the one leading things. And so, because Percy's got a bit of an ego right now, he makes the terrible decision to go after Nico and Bianca by himself, which leads to Bianca, Nico, and Percy getting captured by Dr. Thorne, the Manticore. And things just kind of get worse from there. Not only are these three kidnapped by a Manticore, when Talia, Annabeth, and Grover come to their rescue, things really just go from bad to worse, because they're only able to send the Manticore off the side of a cliff, which all sounds good, in concept, but the bad part is that it was Annabeth who got him sent over the cliff, and she went down with him. Yeah, it's not looking good for you, Percy, is it? No, the girl you fancy's gone off a cliff. I mean, maybe Percy's a lesbian, because I swear, bad things like that happen all the time whenever I'm trying to find a way to find women who will like me. Anyway, Talia's pissed, because, Annabeth is, her best friend and kind of almost like a daughter, because, she was older than her, and they, her and Luke helped, raise Annabeth a little bit before Talia died, of course. And yeah, so she is pissed at Percy, but she doesn't have the opportunity to really kind of stay mad at him for a period of time, because that is when Artemis appears in the form of a 10-year-old girl. Yes, it's weird. We're not going to talk about it. Alongside all of her hunters, including a girl named Zoe Nightshade, who Talia has history and beef with, because Zoe tried to recruit Talia once by saying that Luke here, 'twas a bad egg, and that boys aren't worth it. And as a lesbian, I do agree. Anyway, don't rev, just leave. And they're gone. So, it is when we are meeting Artemis and all of the hunters that basically we are introduced to what I like to call main character problems, in the sense that Percy, even though he's a boy, gets to have a one-on-one meeting with Artemis because of his relationship with Annabeth. This makes no sense to me, because the hunters and Artemis, firstly in this story, are stupidly anti-men. I say stupid because it makes no sense. I've done a video on this, go check it out. But either way, why would a goddess who basically is sworn off men, has no interest in men, has no communication or anything to do with men, taking in a boy to have a conversation about everything that's going on, when you got Talia right here? I know Talia's got beef with the hunt. It's not even with all of the hunters, she just doesn't like Zoe. Why isn't Artemis taking her aside? And this is what I like to call, as I said, main character stupidness, because it makes no sense. But anyway, let's just go into it, because yes, Artemis has taken aside Percy to have a conversation about what's occurring. And basically what happens is that Percy gives the rundown of everything that happened with Dr. Thorne. And during the battle with Dr. Thorne, I realise, actually no, he's not dead yet, so it's fine. I was going to put a cross on Dr. Thorne's face, but he ain't dead, so it's all good. But yes, Dr. Thorne talked about someone called the General, which both Artemis and Zoe here recognise the name. And as Artemis says, this is a sign that bad things are coming. And thus, she must leave her hunters to go in search of a monster so old that she can barely remember its scent, or something other than that. Honestly, it doesn't make any sense because this never actually comes up again in the story. She's saying she's going to go hunting for a monster. Does this monster appear? No. We have no idea who this monster is, but whatever. Wait, I'm lying. I forgot. It's because there's this creature, I forget that it's technically a monster, so I'm just going to pretend I didn't say all of that. But either way, technically Artemis hasn't gone hunting for it anyway, because she has nothing to do with that monster in general. But anyway, it doesn't matter, it's fine. Anyway, so she is going to go hunting for this, and she doesn't want her hunters with her, which Zoe takes personally, and I'm like, that's fair enough. She's been with her for a long time, that she's speaking like a Shakespearean actor. And, you know, it hurts one's feelings when your leader is like, nah, fuck you guys, go to Camp Half-Blood. We know, I know you hate it there, but leave me alone. And yeah, so that's complicated. But before Artemis leaves, she offers someone from this group a special gift. That person is Bianca D'Angelo, who Artemis says there are other options than Camp Half-Blood for girls. And that is joining the hunt. I don't know why I pointed at Artemis, because, well, I guess it is her hunt. But it's joining the hunters. You can become immortal and are only ever slain in battle. And Bianca is interested in taking this up. And again, I want to reiterate this. I have done a video on Bianca and how she isn't actually that bad. She makes a decision because she's a 12-year-old with the responsibilities of a grown woman. She deserves to make choices for herself. And yes, kids are selfish. That's what being a kid is about. People are selfish. Percy is selfish. Do we call him out for it? No. I'm going to get off my soapbox. But yes, Bianca decides to give responsibility for her brother to adults, or in this case it's Percy this time, but she knows that there's probably going to be adults at this camp, so she is giving him into the safety of other people so she can become a hunter with Artemis and the others. And you know what? Fair play to her. She deserves to have things for herself, but you know, we know how it turns out, so let's continue. It is as the sun is beginning to rise that our group is given a ride by Apollo in his fancy red Lamborghini that turns into a school bus back to Camp Half-Blood. Unfortunately, Apollo is an idiot and decides to give Talia, who is nearly 16, the chance to drive the sun chariot, you know, the thing that controls heat and temperature of the sun. So we can blame Apollo for this. Well, we're blaming global warming technically, but we can also blame Apollo for what's currently happening here in the UK and why I'm dying inside. But yes, Talia is given the steering wheel of the sun chariot, but as we later discover, she is afraid of heights, so she does not do a good job of driving the school bus, and everyone who's in the bus is terrified. And you know, she melts some polar ice caps, she turns some areas into deserts, but they manage to get to Camp Half-Blood somewhat okay. And yeah, so it's our group with the hunters back at Camp Half-Blood, and it is there that the news that what happened to Annabeth is revealed. Oh, I forgot to mention that Percy now has Annabeth's hat. It's not this hat, this is Nico's hat, by the way. Because Nico's in this story, that's why I've got this hat. And yeah, everyone's kind of miserable about what's occurring with Annabeth, specifically Percy and Talia, who, when taking Nico to Chiron, basically are told by Chiron, hey, no rescue missions for you guys, things are getting a bit dangerous right now, I'm sorry, Annabeth's, you know, she's probably dead, so, you know, there's no point doing a rescue mission. And so, because Chiron does not understand grief, he then announces a friendly game of capture the flag between Camp Half-Blood and the hunters. And apparently Camp Half-Blood has never won, and the hunters are incredible at what they're doing, and the games can get very vicious. There is a big rivalry between Camp Half-Blood and the hunters, and you know what? I wish we'd seen more of it, or get a book about it. Give us a Hunters of Artemis book, please, Rick. I would really appreciate it. Anyway, Before that game happens, Percy has a little bit of a rest and has a mini talk with Tyson, who has been working in the in Poseidon's castle underwater or whatever, making weapons and stuff. And he learns from Tyson that the Princess Andromeda, Luke's ship, is moving towards the Panama Canal. Do I know where that is? No. Am I going to Google it? No. So, it's just going somewhere. I'm assuming from where we end up, it's because it's Mount Tam, I think. Yeah? No, yeah. So it's somewhere in San Francisco, I'm assuming, or in that direction thereabouts. So it's on the other side of the country. Anyway, it is after having this conversation about the Princess Andromeda that Percy then has a dream about Luke. And it's things like this, so I'm like, you know what? I understand the bisexual Percy headcanons. Am I joking? Kind of. Not really, I can understand them in general, even the dreams of Luke aside. Anyway, Percy has a dream about Lucas Stellan, who is seemingly struggling under the weight of something. He's sweating, he looks really unwell, and that is when he sees Annabeth. And Annabeth is just, well, she's okay, she's alive, she's a little bit battered up, but she sees Luke struggling, and he cries out for her help, to which Percy, in his dream state, is like, no, don't do it, he's a bastard. But because Annabeth is too good for this world, she goes to help him, only to then find out that Luke here was tricking her into holding the weight of something for someone named the General. It is after coming out of this dream and then speaking with Grover that he then finds out that Annabeth was actually in the process of considering joining the Hunters of Artemis, which leads to some conflicting feelings from Percy and a lot of anger towards the Hunters. Is it justified? No, Percy's just being a bit of a dick. But it leads to this friendly game of catch the flag just not going well. Him and Talia get into a lot of fight. That's not even English, Fran. They get into a fight after Percy kind of jeopardizes the game, which leads to the Hunters winning because he wouldn't listen to Talia. Are we seeing a recurring theme here? And it leads to a fight between them, which then leads to the Oracle coming down onto the field and offering a prophecy, not to Percy, who'd actually gone up to the attic earlier to ask her for help, but to Zoe Nightshade. The quest that is given is that 5 demigods and hunters or whatever, 5 people will head west or something or other. 1 will be slain where it doesn't rain. 1 shall be killed by a father's hand, and some other stuff. And basically there is a discussion about who's going to be going, and as a whole, Percy is not chosen. And he doesn't like that, because I've been saying this whole book, this boy does not understand that not everything is about him. But you know what, Percy's cool, so I feel like we can let him get away with some things. But who is going on the quest, you may ask? Well, it is Zoe Nightshade, Grover Underwood, because he doesn't count as a boy. She's basically said no boys allowed on this, and he's a satyr, so he doesn't count. Talia, a girl named Phoebe, and Bianca. And yeah, Percy is just not happy at all about the fact that he is not able to go on this quest. And Chiron even asked him straight up, do you actually want to go on this quest to help things, or do you just want to go on this quest for Annabeth? And the fact is, he kind of has to be going on the quest for both, but right now he only wants to help Annabeth, which is why Annabeth is in the love interest side, but it's also why Percy is not being allowed to go on this quest, because he needs to be wanting to do more things than just, you know, saving Annabeth. But it is then the night before the quest that happens that Percy has another dream. And in this one, it is Artemis who is taking the burden from Annabeth, from Annabeth, of holding the weight of the sky, as we learn at this point. And she has been tricked there by someone named the General. I can't currently point to him because that would be spoilers. And the reason why she's been tricked into coming here is because Artemis always helps a maiden in need. And it seems the general knew this, which is why Annabeth was used as bait. But surprisingly, in the dream that Percy has, Luke advocates for Annabeth to not be killed. He says that she could be useful somehow later on. And, you know, that's surprising. Not that Percy's going to pick up on it, because justifiably he hates this guy. But, you know, it's an important hint for Luke's state of mind. It is then after waking up from this dream that Percy finds, and we don't have his picture, Blackjack, the Pegasus who he helped save from the Princess Andromeda in the Sea of Monsters that I didn't talk about in the previous video, above him saying, "Hey boss, we need your help. There are some like sea life creatures calling for your help." And it's then that Percy heads into the water and finds a sea cow. Does it have a proper name? Yes. Can I pronounce it? No, so I'm not going to try. He finds a sea cow who he helps rescue, and the sea cow then disappears. He names the sea cow Bessie, by the way, which I kind of love. It's very personal. I just love that whole thing. When he then comes out of the water, he finds Nico D'Angelo spying on the hunters, or specifically spying on his sister. Percy then puts on Annabeth's Yankees cap to sneak up behind him to find out what Nico is doing, but also to eavesdrop himself on what is happening with the hunters. It's here that they find out that the Stoll brothers gave Phoebe an itchy powder. What are they called? They gave, basically, a shirt that they gave her had like poison ivy or something in it that just basically made her break out in hives. As someone allergic to heat and a lot of other stuff, I understand breaking out in hives. And yeah, so not fun for Phoebe. And basically, Zoe is saying, well, we were told we would lose someone in the place that doesn't rain, and Camp Half-Blood technically doesn't rain if they don't want it to rain. So, you know, they've lost one of their members. So they are now only a group of 4 instead of 5. And it's then that Nico finds Percy behind him after Percy takes off the Yankees cap and asks Percy to protect his sister, Bianca, which leads to Percy following the hunters and Grover and Talia on the back of Blackjack, who's not up on the wall because I forgot about him. And he then follows them for miles. Turns out, by the way, that Zoe's actually a pretty good driver, which makes sense. She's like millennia-year-old girl, so, you know, it makes sense that she can drive. It is while flying over the city that Dionysus appears in front of Percy, stopping him and basically saying, you know, you heroes suck. All of you are selfish, you only think about your own wants, your own needs, you don't actually do anything for the good of other people. And we find out that Dionysus' wife, what was her name? Ariadne. She only really became his wife when he found her crying on a cliff after being abandoned by, I believe it was Theseus? Yeah, because it's the Minotaur, isn't it? Yeah, abandoned by Theseus, who had promised to marry her, but then he found someone more attractive, basically, and abandoned her. And so Dionysus fell in love with her, and she fell in love with him, and he made her a half goddess, or a minor goddess, or something like that. And yeah, that's why he hates heroes, because they've always been selfish. They've always not cared about what happens to other people. And honestly, Percy is kind of not any different. The only reason why he's going on this quest isn't actually to help. It's just to help save Annabeth. He doesn't care what else happens. All he wants is to save Annabeth. And that in itself is technically selfish. But thankfully, Percy is able to convince Dionysus that he is going to be doing something to help. Kinda. And Dionysus, you know, just gives him this warning of, you know, don't be a dick, basically, and lets Percy go. It is then for miles after following the van, he sees that they have stopped at a museum. While parking, Blackjack, and yes, I'm saying parking because Blackjack is based, you know, we'll say it, he sees Dr. Thorne, and he confirms 100% that Annabeth is definitely alive, because if Dr. Thorne is, so must Annabeth be. Percy then proceeds to follow Dr. Thorne and finds Luke and someone named the General. It is while he is seeing the General and Luke that he sees them create skeletal warriors. But the problem is, whilst they were meant to originally be going after Zoe and Bianca, they've now got Percy's scent, which means basically they're going to hunt Percy down and kill him for as long as he lives. And that isn't good. Percy really does not know how to keep boundaries. This boy's basically just signed his own death sentence because he was too curious. He then makes his way to where the crew is with the Yankees cap on and informs them, hey, we're in a lot of trouble. Kind of technically lying, because it's him that's bringing the trouble because he's got skeletal warriors after him now. But before they can do anything except to respond angrily to his presence because he's been following them, they are attacked by the Nemean lion. Thankfully, with a little bit of teamwork and a little bit of astronaut food to help, they are able to destroy the lion from the inside out, because that's basically the only way to do it, because he's is it immortal? It's kind of immortal from the outside, but he's not immortal on the inside. And it's through killing him that Percy then gets the lion skin, basically giving him like an invulnerable shield. And it's pretty cool, even though animal rights activists probably aren't going to be happy that he's got a fur coat. But anyway, they did a good job. They killed a lion, a Nemean lion specifically. Killing normal lions is bad and terrible, and people who do that suck. It is then that the skeletal warriors arrive, and Zoe says, look, we can't leave you behind now, because firstly, you're definitely clearly meant to be our 5th member, and also, I don't want to leave you to die, because I'm a good person. And they just make a run for their lives because these skeletal warriors are fucking terrifying. When the group of 5 then get on a train heading west, Percy encounters Apollo again, who tells him to seek out the old man named Nemeus. Wait, no, it's Nereus, not Nemeus. My bad. He then advises all of the groups to sleep because they need a lot of rest. And it is while Percy is sleeping that he has a dream of a girl giving him his sword Riptide, and that girl is Zoe Nightshade. With the help of the train acquired by Apollo, they arrive in New Mexico, the next part of their journey. But before they're able to continue, Grover gets the sense of the wild god Pan that sends him into a frenzy, and even Zoe feels something a little out of the ordinary, like that wild and nature was overrunning her senses. But yeah, Grover is basically inconsolable because he thinks he can sense where Pan is, but he loses the scent too quickly to get a real direction. But because they have been somewhat delayed by this revelation, the skeletal warriors have suddenly caught up with them, and they're basically having to fight a losing battle because they're skeletons. Skeletons can't die unless you're Bianca D'Angelo fighting them, because when Bianca stabs one of the skeleton turns to dust and properly dies. But no one really knows what's happening, but the skeletons know, don't go near this Bianca girl, because she knows how to kill us somehow, and the fact that we don't know is really scary. It is after the skeletons kind of sort of back off after everything that's happened with Bianca that Grover says Pan is sending them a gift, which in this case turns out to be the, oh god, I'm not going to be able to say, the Eurymethyn. It's a boar. It's like a terrible huge boar, and it gets rid of the skeletons, like basically kicks them sky high. I nearly fell. And they nearly all end up boar squashed, but thankfully they're able to get onto its back. But it's not very comfortable a journey, but at least they're able to travel quite far on the back of this Nemean boar. Just call it a boar. This boar manages to get them all the way to San Francisco before they have to kind of jump off when they get to this place that turns out to be a junkyard, because if they stay on any longer, firstly they're going to kind of get a sore ass, but also the ball's never really going to stop. So this is the last time they'll probably be able to get off this ball. The junkyard that they are actually at, as it turns out, is the junkyard of the gods. How do they know this? Well, our good enemy Ares has arrived to tell them exactly that. But it's not really Ares who's going to be delivering the information to Percy. No, it's going to be Aphrodite, who has a lot of thoughts and feelings about Percy and Annabeth's love story. And yes, the love interest thing is continuing because Aphrodite looks a little bit like Annabeth. And Aphrodite's appearance changes depending on the attractable attribute of the person you are attracted to. So she looked a little bit like a celebrity that Percy had a crush on, a bit of a teacher he had a crush on, but also a little bit like Annabeth. And you know what? I love that so much. But she's basically saying, you know, when you go through this junkyard, don't touch anything because you'll die. And also, you know, your love story with Annabeth is going to be particularly tragic. You're welcome. And you know what? The chaos that is Aphrodite, I fucking love. She literally just said to this 14-year-old boy, your love life's going to be so bad and so epic and so horrible that I can't wait to see it unfold. And if Aphrodite didn't already have a TV show with the Hephaestus TV, she needs like her own Love Island, basically. She needs to be running one because she deserves to be running a TV show because my God, that is legendary. And yeah, she then leaves and Percy's kind of like, whoa, this is weird. But, you know, he's got some direction now. But for now, our group has got to head into the junkyard of the gods. And there is so much temptation to pick up things that they are familiar with, but none of them do until suddenly something starts to move. And, well, things go from bad to worse because it turns out Bianca had actually picked something up within the graveyard, and it was something for her brother Nico. Nico is obsessed with the Mytho-Magic card game, and one of the figurines that Bianca picked up was the one of Hades, one that Nico has not had before. I realized there's something actually I forgot to bring up. Oh my God! So Bianca, they have to fight one of Hephaestus's automatons that's a little bit defected because, you know, that's why it's in the junkyard because it went really badly, and they're all fighting it and it all seems to be going wrong until Bianca makes a sacrificial play. She enters the automaton and basically makes it explode from the inside out, and her body is never found, and so the worst is expected because of this. Zoe is devastated, Talia is devastated, everyone is devastated about what has happened. But the thing I wanted to bring up, because I just want to go over that now because this is horrible. This is the horrible part because Percy, in his mind, has just broken a promise to Nico because Bianca has just died. But what we just discovered recently about Bianca that I've got to mention, because there are a lot of things I'm forgetting right now, is that we learn that she isn't actually from this time period. She was in the Lotus Casino for decades upon decades, because the last president that she remembers, I don't know American presidents, whoever, I think it's Teddy Roosevelt, the one who's president during World War II. I think that's Teddy Roosevelt. That seems accurate. So yeah, she's not from this time. She is from the 1940s. She just ended up in the Lotus Casino for a long period of time until very recently when they were taken out of the casino and sent to the military school. And her and Nico had no idea. And it's kind of terrifying that that's happened. It's just, sad times. They're literally from a different time. I mean, and they had no idea. That's horrifying to think about. But there had been hints about it throughout this whole book because of the way in which Bianca talked about things, about how the subway system didn't exist last time she was here, which is wrong because the subway system had existed since like the 60s or something. But so there'd been small little hints here and there until they figured it out just before, sadly, Bianca lost her life trying to save everyone, but also making the mistake of trying to do something nice for her brother, which sounds mean to say. She made a mistake trying to do something nice for her brother, but yeah, it led to her death. Things are terrible. Everyone is miserable. And yeah, the prophecy has been fulfilled. Bianca D'Angelo has died in the desert, the land without rain. Tell me, if I can put sad music in, maybe I could do. I don't know, what's the funeral march? I don't know what it is. Anyway, sorry, let's just move on. When they find a truck on the other side of the junkyard, they get into it and drive away to the nearest river. It is there that they find some canoes, and Percy convinces a group of Naiads to, steer them towards the Hoover Dam. It is whilst they are in the canoes that basically Percy finds out that, Zoe has a bit of a history or something. So these Naiads hate her for reasons that are currently unknown. And whilst they are on their way towards the Hoover Dam, Percy, Talia and Grover start spouting some facts about it. And Zoe's wondering why. And it turns out it's because Annabeth knew a lot of stuff about the Hoover Dam. And they used to hear about it all the time. So they've remembered everything she always told them. And now we're sad again. It's when they make it to the Hoover Dam that they then introduce the dam joke. They're heading to the dam snack bar. They want to get a dam t-shirt. They need to find the dam toilets. All that good, hilarious stuff. It is whilst they it's after they've made these jokes that Percy hears the sea cow making noises for him. And it seems that the sea cow is actually warning him, because as it turns out, the skeletal warriors have arrived and Percy is in deep shit. So getting into the elevator with the tour guide whose eyes are grey like Annabeth's. When the group leaves the elevator, he is left alone with this tour guide who turns out to actually be Athena. She's pretty knowledgeable about she knows everything about his current predicament and says basically there is a way out if you can find it. And yes, gods are annoyingly cryptic. She then leaves and Percy's kind of like, what do you mean? It is when trying to hide from the skeletons that he ducks into a room where he hears a noise behind him. And as it turns out, I haven't put their picture up, he slashes at this person who turns out to be a kooky redhead named Rachel, who's got a bit of a cold. And she can see his sword, she can see the skeleton, she can see all. And that is suspicious. But it is with her help that Percy is able to escape, because she confuses the skeletons about his whereabouts. Percy then makes it back up to the top and escapes with his friends. But thankfully, the little advice from Athena leads to Percy realising that these two giant, angel figures that are at the Hoover Dam are connected to Zeus, because Athena gifted them to Zeus. And so they ask for their help, and Talia prays to her dad, and these angels come to life and fly off and take them all the way to San Francisco. The proper part of San Francisco. They were in San Francisco before, apparently, at the junkyard, but now they're in more of San Francisco. It's weird, I don't get it. America's really confusing with their locations. It is while at the San Francisco Bay, I'm assuming, because they're near water, that Percy fights and wrestles Nereus. It's a hard word. The old man of the sea, and learns that Bessie is a sea cow monster. I still can't say that word. It's Ophiutorus. And yeah, sure. Sounds like a dinosaur. Ophiutorus. Dyslexia is really hard when you're trying to explain things from a series that has Greek mythology in it. But he explains that, I'm just going to call her Bessie, no, because it's a him. We're just going to call them Bessie. But that is the monster that Artemis was seeking out, because in killing that monster, a creature that is so innocent, you basically get to decide who's going to win something, because you burn the entrails and you're just like, hey, I want the gods to win. Hey, I want the titans to win. It's basically a guaranteed win. And that's what Luke is after. And it turns out one of the children of the big three can call Bessie to them, which, is going to be important for later. It is then that Dr. Thorne arrives, and he tries to convince Talia to call Bessie to them, because with her power and her on the side of the Titans, they can make sure that the gods never abandon their kids again, which is something that Talia has always been concerned about, because her dad did turn her into a tree, and I'm pretty sure no one would be happy about being turned into a tree. It's while things are going badly that Percy gets a message to Mr. D via an iris message and asks for his help. When Mr. D does help, all of the mortals who are mercenaries who are going to be helping, the monsters that are with them, are driven mad, because that's one of Mr. D's specialty. Alcohol and madness. It's an interesting mix. And so when they are helped by Mr. D, Percy then sends Grover away with Bessie and is hoping to get her to safety, at least keeping her far enough away that there will be no problems when they get to Luke. But to guarantee Grover and Bessie's safety, Percy sacrifices his Nemean lion's pelt to his father in the hopes of guaranteeing their safety. And it is whilst doing all that they realise that they need to go and speak to Annabeth's father, for reasons I still don't fully understand. I think it's basically they just needed a break, and they thought, hey, her dad lives nearby, in the place that we find out from Annabeth multiple times. San Francisco isn't good for demigods because there are a lot of monsters there. Did her dad care? No, because he's a shit father, that's why. And so, the three remaining people on this quest, Percy, Talia and Zoe, go to Dr. Chase to ask for help. And, he and his wife, Mrs. Chase, who never gets a name by the way, seem very concerned that Annabeth is missing. Your child ran away when she was 7 and you didn't go looking for her. I don't believe a damn word. And they offer some help to them. They give them guidance about where things are. They give them their car, all this sort of stuff. And they're just like, oh, I really hope Annabeth will be okay. And I'm like, well, maybe you should have treated her better, you dickheads. And they basically say Annabeth still has a home there if she ever wants it. I'm like, literally, people, she told you San Francisco was dangerous for her and you fucking moved anyway. I don't think that's true, but we'll get to that when we get to that, or you can check my video out on it. Anyway, let's move on. As they are heading up the mountain of Mount Tam, a lightning bolt nearly strikes Talia, or the car or whatever, and nearly kills them, and Talia thinks it's her dad, but Percy's like, hey, no, they're trying to get you to hate your dad. Don't believe them. It's not him. He wouldn't be trying to kill you. But she doesn't fully trust it. And you know what? It's fair enough. He did turn her into a tree. It's fair enough that she doesn't particularly trust him. She died and he turned her into a tree. I mean, anyway, as they make it up to the top of the hill, they land in this place called the Garden of the Hesperitos, where Zoe meets her sisters, who she was kind of kicked out of because she helped Hercules in to this place, gave him the sword, helped him figure out how to get past things. I think it was to get a golden apple. I can't remember, and it doesn't say on the synopsis. I've got to double check things, but I think it was to get like an immortal apple or something like that for one of his tests. And he abandoned her because Hercules is a dickhead. Does Percy remember that later? No. But he's no longer Percy's, hero because he's a dickhead. And, she then goes up to this dragon who has, like, a poisonous bite, and poisonous breath and all this sort of stuff. And, she used to care for him a lot, so she hoped that he would recognise her. Unfortunately, he doesn't, but she was able to distract him long enough for the rest of them to get across. And it's then that they end up on the top of Mount Orthus. I've been calling it Mount Tam. I've been calling it Mount Tam this entire time. There are so many mountains in San Francisco. What the hell? It's Mount Orthus. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. Locations are hard. Geography is hard. Please do know I failed geography. Not that it would matter in this case, because geography doesn't teach you locations. I know about rock sedimentation. Is that useful? No. But it's whilst they are there that, the ruins of the place is being rebuilt, and Percy finds Artemis carrying the burden of Atlas, who is the general. Atlas is the general. And, a fight ensues, and Percy, who's seeing everything that's happening, and it's going to be like a rival to Mount Orthus, and it's like, to Mount Olympus, and everything is just like, oh god, this is fucking terrible. So he takes the burden from Artemis for a period of time so she could go and fight the general. Turns out the general, by the way, is Zoe Nightshade's father. She is struck down badly, but Artemis thankfully is able to come to the rescue, and through some trickery they are able to get Atlas back beneath the sky, where Percy drops his control and Atlas has to automatically take it up. And so he is trapped there once again. And it is in this moment I would like to remind everyone that Annabeth held the burden of the sky a lot longer than Percy did. But does anyone give her the credit? No. She deserves more credit. She held it a lot longer than he did, which means she's a lot stronger. I'm just saying. It is after Atlas has ended up with the burden of the sky once again that Percy makes it out and sees a battle between Luke and Talia occurring, which leads to Luke falling off a chasm. And that really should be a guarantor that that boy be dead. But unfortunately, we'll have to wait and see. It is called Mount Tam. I've just looked at the thing. It is called Mount Tam. Why did I apologise? I need to trust myself so much more than I do. It was just, Mount Tam was becoming Mount Orthus. I need more faith in myself. Maybe if you guys supported me on Patreon, I'd have more faith in myself. Or just subscribe, I don't know. Anyway, sorry, let's just continue. It is after everything that's happened, Luke's fallen to his death, all that sort of stuff, that Artemis and Percy and Talia come to Zoe's side. Because Zoe was the part of the prophecy of being slain by a father's hand. Because Atlas is her father. And she was thrown against the rock so hard, and the poison from the dragon, it's all just mixing together and there's no chance for her survival. So, when Zoe dies, Artemis turns her into a hunter's constellation, where she can continue to hunt and do all these incredible things from the stars. I just love that. I love that so much. It is after everything that's happened that the new trio, which is Annabeth, Percy and Talia, take Blackjack and his Pegasi friends to Mount Olympus, where the three of them, they're there, the meeting has started. I realised I forgot to mention the reason why it was bad they need to find Artemis and all this sort of stuff, and why that quest was given was because of everything that's happening with Artemis, is because the gods were having this Winter Solstice meeting where they were going to decide what to do with the Titans. And Artemis was the only one who was pushing for something to be done. And if she hadn't have been there, things probably still wouldn't have been gotten done. But with her there and our group there to, speak out about, maybe we should try and stop them instead of letting kids die, the gods have a vote on whether or not the heroes get to live, specifically Percy, because before all of that vote happened, Talia has been given a choice by Artemis to join the Hunters. So she would become immortal before the age of 16 and will never reach the age of 16, making Percy 100% the guy who has to be the child of the prophecy, who reaches 16 against all odds. But because his choices could lead to Olympus being destroyed, the gods are making a decision whether or not they should just kill him now. Because, it probably would save them a lot of trouble. I mean, he's got control of Bessie, who is here with Grover, by the way. And, they don't really want to risk their own destruction. But thankfully, the majority of the gods vote in his favour, and Percy is not killed. They also vote for Bessie, who, yes, is on the board, to stay at Mount Olympus protected. And that they must swear on the river Styx to not harm her, because they need to win this battle fair and square by not taking innocent lives. And that is a good way to start things. Innocents, they don't need to be harmed to decide war. Just say. After a party with the gods, which does feel questionable considering you've got 2 girls dead, and possibly Luke maybe as well, but no, he's not. And we found out that Luke isn't dead, according to Poseidon, because his body, even though it should have stayed in the water, he didn't die in the water. There is no sign that he actually died, which is concerning because this guy fell onto sharp rocks and didn't die. Suspicious. But yeah, they're having a party. I'm questioning their morals. And then they head back to Camp Half-Blood, where, turns out, Nico has not yet been informed because, and say it with me now, Chiron is a menace. This grown man didn't tell a child that his sister has died. He waited for another child, Percy, to tell him. I mean, what? And it is whilst all of this is happening, Percy has taken Nico aside, and Nico is blaming him for what has happened because he promised to help protect Bianca, which technically he never actually promised. He said he would do his best, but obviously Nico is a child, and it's fair enough that he's angry. And it's whilst this argument is happening that the skeletal warriors appear, and Nico thinks Percy is trying to kill him, and then destroys the skeletons with the power of his self. And it is here that Percy realises that Nico and Bianca were children of Hades, because only a child of Hades could send skeletons back to the underworld. Which means there is another child who could possibly be the child of the prophecy. Oh, Nico's run away, by the way. He's left. He's gone. He's out of here. But yeah, not good. Oh, and Pan has said to Grover here, I await you. So lots of stuff ending right here. Just lots of chaos. It's going to be interesting how this ends up. But for now, let's go into the Battle of the Labyrinth. Hey, so, you know how I said I was going to do the Battle of the Labyrinth? It got too hot. It's a different day. I was like, oh, I'll do it a different day, see how it is. It didn't get any cooler. I've been having a terrible time. So, this video is kind of long enough as it is, so I'll be doing Battle of the Labyrinth and the Last Olympian in the next and final part. Sorry, there's drilling happening outside. But in the meantime, be sure to hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, let me know what you're thinking of these videos. Do you want me to do like the other series with these? I probably will do them anyway because it's actually quite a lot of fun. And yeah, let me know if you're enjoying this content, and I'll see you in the next part. Bye.